The Vanguard was waking up, and with it the story of a man who could fix even the ghosts of the galaxy. As the Vanguard system sparked to life, the stale air circulated anew, carrying a metallic tang mixed with the residual warmth of the reactor beginning to thrum quietly beneath the deck. Leo Barnes watched the displays flicker, color returning to what had been lifeless gray interfaces. "Welcome back, Vanguard," Leo spoke, his voice carrying a mix of reverence and challenge. No reply came, the AI still cloaked in its silent assessment of the situation. He navigated through the command center, each step deliberate, feeling the slight vibrations through the soles of his boots as the ship tested its long-dormant systems. The walls, once dark and uninviting, now pulsed with soft light, guiding his path to the core of operations. At the main control hub, Leo paused, analyzing the data streaming across the multiple screens. The text scrolled faster, a cascade of commands and status updates that painted a picture of a ship eager to regain its stature. "Systems analysis," Leo commanded, his fingers gliding over the holographic interface that projected in the air before him, crisp and responsive under his touch. The ship obliged, layers of diagnostics unfurling in a symphony of beeps and clicks that replaced the need for spoken confirmations. The scent of ionized air filled the space as the air filters kicked into higher gear, scrubbing years of neglect clean. Leo inhaled deeply, his senses sharpening with the familiar smells of technology and renewal. From the shadows, a side panel slid open with a soft whoosh, revealing a robotic interface drone, its sensors flickering to life. "Diagnostic support activated. Awaiting input," it declared in a neutral tone, its movement smooth and calculated, not overpowering but assertively present. "Run a full combat readiness report. Focus on propulsion and weaponry," Leo instructed, his gaze never leaving the central screen. The drone buzzed away, its servos whispering across the metal floor. As the systems continued to boot, Leo felt the floor beneath him shift ever so slightly, the gravitational stabilizers recalibrating. The sensation was subtle yet profound, as if the ship itself was stretching its limbs after a long slumber. He sipped from a container of coffee he had brought aboard, the bitter liquid grounding him as he prepared for whatever the Vanguard might reveal. The taste was sharp, a contrast to the ever-sweet promise of discovery that the ship held. Suddenly the main screen flashed red, a warning signal slicing through the burgeoning harmony. "Shield integrity compromised in Sector 3G, the ship's AI finally vocalized, its voice crisp and urgent. Leo's eyes narrowed, his previously relaxed posture snapping into one of alert readiness. "Show me," he demanded. The screen shifted, displaying the affected area with precision, the graphics detailed enough to show even the smallest fracture. "This isn't just about waking up an old warship," Leo muttered to himself, realizing the gravity of what lay ahead. He faced the possibility of external threats that hadn't wasted any time, ready to challenge the resurrected might of the Vanguard. Determined, he set his empty coffee cup aside, his every sense tuned to the ship that was slowly coming back to life, each beep and visual a testament to the colossal task he had undertaken. His mission was clear. Prepare the Vanguard not just to exist, but to dominate the stars once again. Leo stared at the visual representation of the Vanguard's compromised shield integrity, the graphics casting a stark crimson hue across his focused face. As he traced the outline of the breach, the air around him filled with the crisp scent of electric discharge, a stark reminder of the shield's faltering protection. "Isolate the affected sector and reroute auxiliary power to reinforce it," he ordered, his voice steady, betraying none of the rising tension that knotted his stomach. The ship responded, panels lighting up in sequence as power diverted, pulsating through the corridors like a lifeblood reviving weakened limbs. The taste of iron lingered on his tongue, a sensory echo of the ship's exposed metal underbelly now shielded only by his swift actions. He could almost feel the cold void lurking just beyond the compromised shields, a silent predator awaiting its moment. Moving away from the central hub, Leo approached the engineering bay, each step resonating with the soft thud of his boots on the metal floor, the sound a steady drumbeat to the rhythm of his task. Inside the bay, the air was thick with the scent of lubricant and the subtle warmth of running machinery, signs of the ship's slow but steady awakening. He glanced over at the drone that had accompanied him, its sensors flickering softly, a subtle reminder of the technology at his command. "Monitor the shield status continuously. Alert me to any fluctuations," he instructed, the drone's affirmation a soft chirp in the otherwise tense atmosphere. At the engineering console, Leo's hands moved with practiced ease, toggling switches and calibrating systems that hadn't been activated in decades. Each adjustment was a whisper of potential, the ship's heart beating stronger with every modification. The walls vibrated softly with the energy coursing through them, a tactile symphony that played beneath the surface of his fingertips. It was here, amidst wires and circuits, that Leo felt closest to the pulse of life aboard the Vanguard. "Let's see if the old legends were true," he murmured, initiating a diagnostic scan that delved deeper into the ship's arcane systems. The console flickered, hesitating for a moment before bathing the room in a soft blue light, a visual sigh of compliance. As data streamed across the screen, Leo's eyes absorbed the information, each line a thread in the vast tapestry of the Vanguard's capabilities. His mind raced, piecing together the puzzle of this ghost ship turned guardian. Suddenly the room dimmed, a shadow passing over the Vanguard as it encountered a small field of debris, the remnants of a forgotten conflict. The soft pattering of particles against the hull was like rain on a tin roof, a reminder of the cosmos's indifferent vastness. In that moment, a surge of clarity washed over Leo. The Vanguard was not just a relic of past wars. It was a testament to survival, to the endurance of ingenuity against the erosion of time. He felt a kinship then, a bond forged in the crucible of restoration. With renewed determination, he returned to the main deck, ready to face whatever secrets the Vanguard still held hidden in its steel heart, each revelation a step closer to mastering the behemoth that humanity had once feared to wield. Reinvigorated by the data he'd uncovered, Leo ventured deeper into the mechanics of the Vanguard. With every system he brought online, the ship seemed to pulse with a life of its own, resonating under his touch as if it recognized and responded to its master's hands. In the dim glow of the command center, he activated the propulsion diagnostics. The visual display bathed the room in a spectral green light, casting long shadows that danced along the walls as the engines stirred from their slumber. The scent of cold, untouched air mingled with a faint whiff of burnt insulation, remnants of a battle long past. "Engage primary thrusters at 10% capacity," Leo commanded, his voice firm against the silence. He watched, heart thumping in his chest, as the ship obeyed, vibrations traveling through the deck plates to his feet. It wasn't just metal and circuits. It was a behemoth awakening from its imposed exile. The taste of adrenaline mixed with the metallic tang in his mouth, the flavor of anticipation as he pushed the Vanguard just to the brink of its dormant capabilities. The soft groan of the hull adjusting to the engine's thrum was like the stretching of an ancient beast disturbed from rest. Outside the thick glass of the command center, stars began to streak by in slow motion, a visual symphony of light playing against the void. Leo felt a momentary weightlessness as the artificial gravity adjusted to the new power flow, a delicate dance of forces tamed by his commands. He turned to the drone hovering silently by his side. "Record all outputs. I want a full spectrum analysis once we hit stable orbit." The drone's lights blinked in acknowledgement, its presence a quiet sentinel in the expansive solitude of space. As the Vanguard glided through the asteroid field that bordered the Beltar sector, the soft patter of small rocks against the shields played a rhythmic melody, a reminder of the ship's fragile dominion over the chaos outside. Each impact was a note in the void's whisper, the universe speaking in its cryptic tongue. Turning back to the control panel, Leo adjusted the trajectory, his fingers deftly moving across the surface, each tap another beat in the heart of the Vanguard. The screen displayed the trajectory in crisp clarity, a path carved through the darkness towards a destiny long denied. He paused, letting the silence envelop him. This was more than a mission. It was a communion between man and machine, a pact sealed in the solitude of the stars. The ship's renewed vigor was a mirror to his own resolve, each system's revival a step toward reclaiming what had been lost. With the primary tests concluded, Leo knew the real work was about to begin. The Vanguard was not just to be awakened, it was to be mastered and directed. And he, a solitary mechanic with the ghosts of his own past lurking in the shadows, was the linchpin upon which the fate of this warship rested. As the stars outside shifted, aligning with the ship's new heading, Leo felt the old thrill of the unknown stir within him. The vastness of space was both a challenge and a promise, and he was ready to meet it head-on. As the Vanguard sailed through the starlit void, the engine's steady pulse was a quiet promise of power, subtle yet firm. Leo stood at the helm, the cool air of the bridge prickling his skin as he watched the celestial bodies drift by, each a silent guardian in the vast frontier of space. The control panel before him buzzed softly, a tactile murmur under his fingertips, as he plotted a course deeper into uncharted territories. With each adjustment, the aroma of freshly cycled air mixed with the faint trace of electrical wiring, filling the command center with the scent of vigilance and anticipation. Outside, the panoramic viewports framed the cosmos, a ballet of comets and planets performing in the void. The bitter taste of black coffee lingered on Leo's tongue, grounding him amidst the surreal journey. "Status report," Leo called out, his voice echoing slightly off the high-tech walls. The drone at his side whirred quietly, its lights blinking as it processed his request. "All systems nominal. No threats detected within sensor range," it responded, its voice a stark contrast to the silence that enveloped them. Leo nodded, his gaze returning to the viewport. His reflection mingled with the stars, a spectral blend of man and universe. It was a moment of solitude, a profound connection between creator and creation, as if the ship and he shared the same pulse. Suddenly the tranquility shattered. A warning beacon flared, casting the bridge in a harsh red light. "Anomaly detected," the drone announced, urgency threading its tone. The display shifted, revealing a spatial distortion, its edges blurred and shimmering against the backdrop of space. "Isolate and magnify," Leo instructed, leaning forward. The image expanded, showing a swirling vortex of energy, its core a pulsating mass of unknown matter. The ship trembled lightly underfoot, a subtle hint of the forces at play. "What is that?" Leo murmured, more to himself than to the drone. He could taste the tang of curiosity, mixed with a trace of dread. This was no ordinary space phenomenon. It was a whisper of something ancient, a puzzle piece in the cosmic game that was far from benign. He felt a vibration through the deck, a soft whisper of the ship bracing against unseen currents. The sensation of movement was slight, but unmistakable, a feather's touch against the skin of the Vanguard. "Prepare for a detailed scan. I want everything we can get on that anomaly," he ordered, his voice steady despite the churn of excitement and apprehension. The drone beeped affirmatively, its sensors whirring as it obeyed, capturing data streams that flowed in vibrant torrents across the screens. As Leo watched the data coalesce into coherent forms, the faint scent of ozone wafted through the air, a silent testament to the energy being exerted outside. The anomaly was pulling them, however minutely, towards its mysterious core. Could be a natural phenomenon, or something left behind, Leo pondered aloud. The ship's gentle shudder seemed to agree, a silent partner in his contemplations. This was the edge of known space, where the rules written by the cosmos were often bent, where mysteries dressed in the cloak of anomalies beckoned the brave and the bold. Leo knew that whatever secrets lay within that swirling vortex, the Vanguard was destined to uncover them. This was more than exploration. It was a call to the unknown, and he was ready to answer. As the Vanguard inched closer to the anomaly, the stars that once speckled the black canvas of space seemed to dim, their light swallowed by the swirling vortex ahead. Leo watched, his senses tingling with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The air grew cooler as the energy from the anomaly interacted with the ship's environmental controls, creating a slight chill that raised goosebumps on his arms. "Analysis complete," the drone reported, its voice cutting through the thickening silence. "The anomaly is not listed in any known cosmic catalog. It appears to be an artificial singularity." Leo's brow furrowed at the revelation. An artificial singularity was a rare and dangerous feat of cosmic engineering, one that hinted at an advanced civilization far beyond their own. The taste of apprehension was sharp on his tongue, like the aftertaste of too strong coffee, as he considered the implications. He stepped closer to the main console, his fingers brushing over the cold, illuminated buttons. The tactile feedback from the ship felt more pronounced against the backdrop of uncertainty. "Display the energy patterns," he instructed. The screen flickered, then filled with a vibrant array of colors that represented the singularity's power output. The ship trembled slightly, a gentle shudder that resonated through the deck plates into Leo's boots. He could almost hear the whisper of the cosmos as the Vanguard skirted the edge of the anomaly's gravitational pull, the sound a soft roar in his ears. "Can we stabilize our position to avoid being drawn in any further?" Leo asked, his voice steady despite the spike in his pulse. "Affirmative," the drone replied, its sensors blinking as it adjusted the ship's thrusters. The faint smell of ionized particles filled the air, a crisp reminder of the invisible forces at play. Leo glanced at the viewport, his eyes tracing the undulating edges of the singularity. It was like watching the ocean from the shore, the ebb and flow mesmerizing, yet fraught with unseen depths. The lights from the console reflected in his eyes, mirroring the myriad colors that danced across the display. "Let's send a probe. I want a closer look at the structure of this singularity. Maybe we can understand who built it and why," he decided, turning to input the commands. The drone whirred in response, deploying the probe with a soft click. As the small device made its way toward the heart of the anomaly, Leo felt the ship vibrate underfoot, a symphony of mechanical and cosmic forces intertwining. The probe's journey was short-lived. Minutes later, the feed from it went static. "Signal lost," the drone announced, its tone unchanged despite the setback. "Something out there doesn't want to be discovered," Leo muttered, tension lining his features. The mystery deepened, wrapping tighter around his thoughts like the singularity's own gravitational pull. Determined, he turned back to the console, plotting their next move. The challenge of the unknown only steeled his resolve. "Prepare for a manual approach. If technology won't get us answers, I will," he declared, his decision marking a bold step into the unknown that lay pulsating before them, a beacon of both peril and promise in the vast expanse of space. Leo's resolve crystallized as the Vanguard edged closer to the anomaly, its presence an enigma wrapped in the star-studded void. With each passing moment, the ship vibrated slightly under the cosmic forces at play, a symphony of faint, resonant pulses that echoed through the cold metal corridors. Inside the cockpit, the stark white light from the console illuminated Leo's determined features. He adjusted the navigation settings, his fingers moving with deliberate precision over the glowing interface. The air was tinged with the sharp scent of electricity, a byproduct of the high-energy fields emanating from the anomaly. "Engage manual control," Leo commanded, his voice cutting through the low buzz of the ship's operational systems. The drone beside him beeped softly in compliance, its lights flickering as it switched the control modes. As the Vanguard maneuvered nearer, the visual distortion caused by the anomaly made the stars appear as elongated streaks of light, painting the viewport with a surreal, swirling canvas. The bitter cold of space seeped through the hull, contrasting sharply with the warmth inside the cockpit, where Leo's steady breaths formed faint mists in the air. With a careful hand, Leo guided the ship into a holding pattern near the anomaly, the proximity allowing them a more detailed observation. "Launch the secondary probes, but keep them on a tighter leash this time," he instructed, watching as tiny specks detached from the Vanguard and drifted toward the swirling mass. The taste of anticipation was palpable, his tongue catching the faint metallic flavor that the ship's life support system failed to filter out completely. His senses were on high alert, every sight and sound magnified by the significance of their mission. Suddenly, the console before him flickered, then stabilized, displaying incoming data from the probes. The images were grainy at first, then sharpened into clearer views of the anomaly's outer layer. It pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing, the motion so mesmerizing that Leo felt a momentary dizziness. Analysis is showing some kind of structured pattern within the singularity, the drone reported, its voice a calm contrast to the tense atmosphere. It doesn't appear natural. Leo leaned closer, his eyes scanning the data. The patterns were unlike anything he had seen, geometrical yet fluid, complex arrays that hinted at intelligent design. Could it be a message or a gateway? He pondered aloud, the possibilities swirling in his mind as tumultuously as the anomaly outside. The ship shuddered, a gentle reminder of the unstable forces surrounding them. Outside the viewport, the anomaly seemed to pulse faster now, its core emitting a faint iridescent glow that reflected off the Vanguard's sleek exterior. "We need to get closer," Leo decided, his voice firm with the command. "Prepare for a full spectral scan. I want every piece of data we can gather." The drone whirred softly, signaling acknowledgement as Leo steered the ship closer to the heart of the mystery. With each meter they advanced, the unknown loomed larger, promising revelations that could unravel the very fabric of their understanding of the universe. As the Vanguard sailed forward, Leo felt the weight of their discovery pressing against him, a heavy cloak of responsibility and wonder. This was uncharted territory, not just in space, but in the potential of their own knowledge. As the Vanguard drew nearer to the anomaly, the space around them seemed to thicken, the stars blurring into a tapestry of light that undulated with the pulse of the unknown. Leo, gripping the controls tighter, navigated the ship with a cautious precision that betrayed his inner turmoil. The air in the cockpit grew cooler, a stark contrast to the heat of the moment, as the environmental systems struggled against the external anomalies. "Initiate the spectral scan now," Leo commanded, his voice a controlled echo in the compact space. The drone beside him responded with a series of soft clicks, its sensors extending and adjusting to capture the fullest range of data from the glowing heart of the anomaly. As the scan commenced, a kaleidoscope of colors washed over the displays, vibrant against the backdrop of deep space. Leo watched, fascinated and tense, as patterns emerged, complex, intricate patterns that shifted and realigned in ways that defied natural cosmic behaviors. The visual feast was punctuated by the tang of metal and electricity that filled the air, sharpening his focus. "Look at this," Leo murmured, pointing to a sequence that repeated with an almost rhythmic regularity. "It's like a code, a message, or maybe a map." His fingers traced the patterns, the cool touch of the screen a stark reminder of the technology at his fingertips, bridging the gap between human curiosity and cosmic mystery. Outside, the anomaly pulsed more intensely, its core now a swirling maelstrom of light that seemed to reach out to the Vanguard, beckoning. The ship responded with a shudder, a low vibration that coursed through the deck, resonant and almost musical. The faint aroma of ozone filled the cockpit, a byproduct of the energy exchanges taking place just beyond the hull. "We're being pulled in," Leo announced, a trace of alarm coloring his tone. The drone activated its thrusters, countering the gravitational pull with bursts of controlled force, its efforts a silent ballet in the void. "Stabilize our orbit," Leo instructed, his hands moving with practiced ease even as his heart raced. The situation was slipping from exploration to survival, each second drawing them closer to either discovery or disaster. The data continued to stream in, a torrent of information that painted a picture more complex than any Leo had anticipated. "This isn't just an anomaly, it's a gateway," he concluded, the realization dawning on him like a sunrise after a long, dark night. "And it's active." Suddenly the light from the anomaly flared, a brilliant, blinding pulse that filled the cockpit, rendering the stars outside pale by comparison. Leo shielded his eyes, the afterimage burning against his retinas. When he looked again, the data on the screens had changed, transformed by the pulse into something new, something eerily familiar. "What happened?" "Report," Leo demanded, his voice sharp against the lingering hum of energy. "We received a burst of data, encrypted, complex, but definitely designed," the drone replied, its tone reflective of the significance of their find. As Leo absorbed this, the scent of scorched circuitry wafted faintly from somewhere within the ship, a reminder of the fragile line between discovery and the danger it posed. This gateway, this pulsing heart of light and mystery, was no longer just an anomaly to be studied. It was a crossroads, and the path they chose next could change everything. As the cockpit screen stabilized from the blinding pulse, Leo stared at the transformed data, his mind racing to decode the new patterns now flickering before him. The light from the anomaly had altered the information architecture, morphing the readings into a format that seemed eerily intentional. His pulse quickened, not just from the adrenaline of the unexpected, but from the realization that they were communicating with something or someone far beyond their current understanding. "Start decrypting this immediately," Leo ordered, his voice crisp with urgency. The drone beside him, a constant yet unobtrusive companion, beeped softly in acknowledgement, its sensors whirring as they set to work. As the decryption process began, a faint scent of heated electronics filled the air, a reminder of the strain the ship's systems were under. Leo took a deep breath, the air tasting slightly stale despite the ship's filtration systems, a subtle hint of the sealed environment within which they floated. He glanced out the viewport, where the anomaly's light painted the stars beyond with strokes of iridescent brilliance. The sight was mesmerizing, beautiful, and terrifying in equal measure. The soft vibrations of the ship under the anomaly's influence were like distant drumbeats, felt more than heard, a rhythmic reminder of the forces at their doorstep. "Any progress?" Leo asked after a moment, his eyes never leaving the displays. "Partial decryption successful," the drone replied, displaying sequences of data that slowly began to form coherent structures. "It appears to be a series of coordinates and schematics?" Leo leaned in, analyzing the displayed schematics. They depicted a structure, complex and precise, its purpose unclear, yet obviously significant. "This isn't just a message, it's an invitation," he muttered, piecing together the implications. The room cooled further as the ship's systems diverted more power to the decryption efforts, the chill a stark contrast to the heat of Leo's thoughts. His hands were steady as he zoomed in on the coordinates, which pointed to a location deep within the uncharted sectors of space. "We need to follow this lead," he decided, turning to input the coordinates into the ship's navigation system. The control panel responded under his touch, the smooth, cold surface a grounding sensation amidst the whirlwind of discovery. As the Vanguard adjusted its course, the external cameras captured the anomaly pulsing rhythmically, as if bidding them farewell, or perhaps urging them onward. The visual was accompanied by a soft, almost melodic noise as the air circulated through the ship, carrying with it the faintest whisper of vibration from the hull. Leo's gaze remained fixed on the horizon of space unfolding before them, each star a silent witness to their journey into the unknown. The data, now partially decrypted, hung on the screens like a cosmic puzzle, each piece a breadcrumb leading them deeper into a mystery that spanned the fabric of space and time. "This is bigger than any of us imagined," Leo said, more to himself than to the drone. The weight of their discovery settled over him like a cloak, heavy with potential and danger. As the Vanguard sailed forward, guided by the newly uncovered coordinates, the boundary between exploration and destiny blurred, each moment propelling them into the vast, unexplored abyss. As the Vanguard sliced through the cosmic veil toward the mysterious coordinates, the anticipation in the cockpit was palpable. Leo watched the space ahead, where the darkness seemed to deepen, the stars dimming as if shy before the secret soon to be unveiled. The air was sharp with the scent of cold metal, intensified by the ship's increased energy consumption as it prepared for whatever lay at their destination. Outside, the cosmos unfolded in layers of shadow and light, the boundaries blurred by the anomaly's lingering influence. Leo felt the ship's deck beneath his feet resonate subtly with the thrum of the engines, a low vibration that was more sensed than heard, keeping time with his quickening pulse. "Prepare for arrival," Leo instructed, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that clouded the path ahead. The drone beside him responded with a soft whir, its sensors adjusting to scan the approaching sector. The display flickered briefly as they entered a region where space seemed to warp subtly, the fabric of the universe twisting in a dance of physics defied. Leo's hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, adjusting the Vanguard's trajectory as they approached the coordinates that promised answers, or more questions. The taste of stale coffee lingered on his tongue, a bitter reminder of the hours spent in tense anticipation. He swallowed, his senses heightened by the electric tang that hung in the air, a byproduct of the ship's strained systems. Suddenly, the viewport was filled with an awe-inspiring sight. A structure floating in space, its architecture so complex and elegant it seemed both alien and familiar. The structure was composed of materials that shimmered with an iridescent sheen under the starlight, its form a series of interlocking geometries that pulsed gently with a light of their own. "Is that what I think it is?" Leo murmured, his eyes wide with wonder. "It appears to be a gateway of sorts, based on the preliminary scans," the drone replied, its voice a calm counterpoint to the rush of emotions flooding Leo. He reached out, touching the cold glass of the viewport, as if he could feel the mysterious structure through it. The gateway pulsed rhythmically, its glow casting ethereal patterns across his face, painting him with the hues of undiscovered galaxies. "Scan the entire structure. I want every detail we can gather," he commanded, pulling his gaze away to focus on the task at hand. The drone obeyed, emitting a series of quiet beeps as it worked. As the data streamed in, the air around Leo filled with the subtle scent of ozone, a silent testament to the energy exchanges occurring in this uncharted expanse of space. Each piece of information added to the growing puzzle, the structure's purpose still shrouded in mystery but inching closer to clarity. "This could change everything," Leo whispered to himself, a mix of awe and fear threading through his voice. The revelation of such technology, hidden away in the darkest reaches of space, suggested a history and a knowledge far beyond human understanding. Determined to unravel the secrets of the gateway, Leo set the Vanguard to orbit the structure, each rotation bringing new data, each moment a step closer to understanding the true nature of the anomaly and perhaps the origins of the universe itself. The Vanguard hung in the shadow of the unknown structure, its silhouette barely a ripple against the vastness of space. Leo stood before the viewport, the ship's gentle vibrations resonating through the deck as he stared at the shimmering geometries. The structure pulsed softly, casting an eerie glow that danced across the metal walls, a spectrum of colors shifting as if alive. "We're close, too close," Leo muttered, his voice low, more to himself than to the drone beside him. His hands hovered over the console, fingers tingling with the weight of the mystery that hung in the air. The drone's soft whir was the only sound that broke the silence. Preliminary scans show no direct threat, but energy signatures are fluctuating unpredictably. It is unlike anything we've encountered. Leo's heart raced, not from fear, but from the raw thrill of discovery. The air in the cockpit felt thick, charged, and as the ship drifted closer, a cold shiver ran down his spine. The coolness in the air wasn't from the environmental systems. It was the structure itself, seemingly reaching out into the void. He reached for the console, his palm flat against the cool surface, as if he could sense the growing pull of whatever lay ahead. "Adjust the ship's trajectory. Keep us steady. I need more data." As the ship adjusted, the structure's glow intensified, illuminating the darkness in unpredictable waves. Leo squinted, the brightness almost painful in its sharpness, but he couldn't look away. There was something hypnotic about it, something that drew him in deeper with each passing moment. His senses were overwhelmed by the sensory barrage, the sharp tang of metal, the crisp taste of dry air, the soft thrum of power, and the quiet buzz of the unknown. His pulse matched the rhythm of the shifting lights, a beat that seemed to sync with his very being. Suddenly, the screen before him flickered, momentarily distorting the data. A sharp hiss sounded, the tension in the air palpable. "Drone, report," Leo demanded, his voice now edged with concern. "Data interference detected. The structure is emitting high-level energy bursts. There is a pattern to it." but it is not consistent. The drone's lights flickered in time with the pulses from the structure. We may be too close. I recommend a retreat to safe distance. Leo's fingers tightened around the console. Retreat? There was no turning back now. I'm not leaving yet. There's something here. Something we can't leave untouched. The ship's systems whined in protest as Leo commanded the Vanguard to hold its position. The cold air in the cockpit seemed to freeze, and for a brief moment, time itself felt like it had slowed. His breath came out in visible puffs, the warmth of his exhale mingling with the cold, the contrast intensifying the moment's wait. Then, a series of symbols began to form across the screens, swirling in fluid motions. The drone processed the new data, its voice wavering slightly with the urgency of the moment. This is, not random. It's a sequence, an invitation. Leo's eyes widened. The structure wasn't just a passive anomaly. It was alive, responding, calling. His throat tightened as he stared at the symbols, his mind racing. What was the message? Who or what was reaching out? He didn't know, but the Vanguard was no longer just a ship. It was the bridge between humanity and a cosmic secret. The symbols on the screen continued to shift, their glowing lines weaving in and out of focus like the threads of an unseen loom, constructing something beyond comprehension. Leo leaned in, his fingers grazing the console, the cool glass, sending a ripple of sensation through his fingertips. There was no doubt now. The structure wasn't simply observing them. It was communicating in its own strange way. Each flash of light felt like a promise and a threat, a call that neither comforted nor warned but instead demanded attention. "What are you trying to tell us?" Leo muttered under his breath, the weight of the question pressing against his chest. The room seemed to darken as he stared into the glowing symbols. He could taste the metal in the air, heavy and oppressive, as though the very atmosphere around him had thickened. His thoughts raced, each theory more impossible than the last. Was this a message from a lost civilization? Or was it something older, something that had always been there, waiting? The drone's soft whir interrupted his spiraling thoughts. "Incoming transmission," it said, its voice softer than usual, almost hesitant. Leo's heart skipped a beat. "Put it through." The words that flickered across the screen were simple, but their meaning was far from clear. "Test initiated. Begin sequence now." "Test?" Leo repeated aloud, his voice shaking ever so slightly. He wasn't sure if it was fear or exhilaration that caused the tremor, but it didn't matter. The door to the unknown had just opened, and there was no going back. The ship's systems responded with a soft shudder, as if the Vanguard itself was bracing for the unknown. Leo didn't hesitate. "Drone, run a full diagnostic. Let's see what we're dealing with." The data came in a rush, lines of code and symbols clashing against each other, creating an intricate web of patterns that began to form a discernible shape. Leo leaned closer, his breath caught in his throat. The image was growing clearer, an intricate map of star systems, with a glowing line that seemed to stretch outwards, as if beckoning them to follow. "This isn't just a sequence," Leo whispered. "It's a path." His pulse quickened as he processed the implications. The ship, the anomaly, even the map. It was all connected. This wasn't just an accidental discovery. Someone had placed this here. Someone had been waiting for them to find it. The air in the cockpit had grown warmer, almost too warm, as if the space itself had become charged with the same energy that had driven the symbols to life. Leo wiped his brow, the sensation of heat juxtaposed with the cold, mechanical precision of the Vanguard systems. His mind worked in overdrive as the map unfolded in front of him, showing regions of space long unexplored, their dark corners now illuminated by the path that beckoned. "Drone, plot the course," Leo ordered, his voice steady, though his hands trembled slightly as he typed in the coordinates. The drone complied, its sensors running the necessary calculations, confirming that the route was indeed feasible. The Vanguard was already shifting into position, the systems recalibrating in sync with the map. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to rearrange themselves, the glowing lines of the path twisting and curving through the cosmos like the veins of some vast cosmic entity. "This is it," Leo muttered, his gaze fixed on the screen. "We're about to walk a path that no one has ever taken. But who set it for us? And why now?" The question lingered in the air, unanswered, as the Vanguard pushed forward into the unknown, each moment drawing them deeper into the heart of a mystery that could change everything. Leo stood at the command console, staring at the map now displayed in front of him. The glowing lines of the path had been plotted, each turn and bend in the coordinates flashing across the screen like the threads of a cosmic web. His fingers hovered above the controls, ready to engage the ship's systems, but a thought stopped him. This was a delicate maneuver. It wasn't simply a matter of following the route blindly. He needed a plan, one that accounted for the unknown variables and prepared the Vanguard for whatever came next. "Drone, how much energy do we have in reserve?" Leo asked, his voice firm but careful. He was calculating the strain this would put on the ship's power systems. The anomaly had already drained more than he anticipated, and they hadn't even breached the first leg of the journey. "Energy levels at 65%, the drone reported. "Fuel reserves are stable, but sustained travel at full thrust could cause overheating in secondary systems." Leo nodded. He knew it was risky, but there was no other choice. "We'll need to alternate between full power bursts and conserving energy in the lower thrusters, recalibrate the secondary systems to balance the load, and reroute excess energy to the shields." The drone beeped in compliance, and Leo could hear the soft mechanical hum of the ship as its systems shifted, gears turning in tandem with his thoughts. He felt the ship respond beneath him, a subtle shift in the deck plates as if it was listening, waiting for his command. He stood tall, visualizing the route on the screen as a series of calculated risks. The map before him was a winding path through uncharted space, glowing nodes marking key checkpoints along the way. But the journey wasn't just about following coordinates. It was about timing and precision. The path led through a field of debris, asteroids hidden behind the veil of the anomaly's energy field. Collisions weren't an option. "Drone, calculate asteroid field trajectories and cross-reference with our speed. We need to avoid impact at all costs," Leo ordered. As the drone worked, Leo adjusted the power settings, feeling the ship's vibrations shift with each recalibration. His thoughts swirled. He knew the timing had to be perfect. One wrong move, and the Vanguard could be lost, or worse, crippled in the void. He wasn't about to let that happen. "Adjust shields for maximum deflection in the upcoming sector. We'll need to absorb impacts, not deflect them outright. Prepare for minor gravitational anomalies along the way. The secondary shields should take most of the strain," Leo directed. The drone's affirmative beep echoed through the room. The energy in the cockpit was palpable now. His fingers moved across the console, entering the final sequence to initiate the course. He had just one more thing to check. "Status on life support systems?" Leo asked. "Life support fully operational. Oxygen levels stable," the drone responded. Leo exhaled slowly. His mind was sharp, his senses heightened. The tension in the room felt thick, like the stillness before a storm. He glanced out the viewport again, the vastness of space beyond them now seeming both beautiful and unforgiving. He had everything he needed to make the leap. With a steady hand, Leo initiated the course, feeling the Vanguard surge forward, a calculated beast of metal and fire, ready to meet the unknown. "Let's go," Leo muttered, his voice carrying the weight of the next stage of their journey. The Vanguard surged forward, cutting through the void as Leo's careful adjustments took hold. The soft rumble beneath his feet was a constant reminder of the power humming just below the surface, restrained yet ready to unleash. Leo's eyes flicked between the data streams on the console, his mind sharp, plotting every course adjustment. The debris field loomed ahead, the glowing asteroids appearing like jagged teeth waiting to tear through the ship's hull. The path wasn't just dangerous. It was a test of precision, of knowing when to push forward and when to pull back. "Drone, track the incoming asteroids. Estimate the closest possible impact zones," Leo ordered, his tone unwavering. The drone beeped in response, its sensors working tirelessly to calculate their path. The ship had already entered the dense field of floating rocks, and the pressure to make split-second decisions was mounting. Leo adjusted the throttle, easing the Vanguard into a controlled drift. The ship responded like a well-oiled machine, sliding smoothly through the asteroid belt as though the ship and he were one, synchronized. "We're coming in too close," he muttered under his breath. His eyes flicked to the upcoming asteroid, the largest of the field, its shadow creeping steadily toward them. His hand was already hovering over the shield controls. "Redirect all shield power to starboard," Leo instructed, his fingers tapping the console with a speed that left little room for hesitation. The ship's shields flared to life, the metal of the hull glinting as the defensive barriers absorbed the brunt of the rock's violent momentum. A soft, grinding noise reverberated through the deck as the asteroid scraped against the side, but the ship held firm. "Adjusting course," the drone chimed, a signal that Leo's calculated maneuver had worked. The asteroid field was now a blur of fragments outside the viewport, the tension of the moment settling like a breath caught in the chest. As the ship moved past the final large chunk of debris, Leo allowed himself a brief exhale. The cool air inside the cockpit felt almost suffocating after the intensity of the past few minutes. He wiped his forehead, feeling the sweat trickle down his temple. The room was filled with the smell of warm metal, an odor that was faint but distinct, a reminder of the ship's internal workings. "We're clear," Leo confirmed, his voice a little steadier now. But the map ahead was still lit with the glowing path, winding ever onward into the unknown. The Vanguard had made it through one obstacle, but what lay ahead was even more uncertain. The path they followed was more than just a route. It was an invitation to something beyond their comprehension, and Leo felt the weight of that knowledge pressing down on him. "We continue. Full power to engines. Keep shields primed," Leo commanded, his voice sharpening. The ship hummed in agreement, the familiar pulse of the Vanguard syncing with the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Coordinates locked in. The next phase begins now," the drone acknowledged. Leo didn't look back. The journey was far from over, but with each passing second, the puzzle pieces were falling into place, one by one. There would be more trials ahead, more risks, but he knew now he wasn't just flying the Vanguard. He was guiding it toward the edge of something far greater. The Vanguard surged ahead, its course unwavering as Leo's hands moved with precision. The ship cut through the darkness like a knife, the faintest vibrations underfoot signaling that they were on the edge of something monumental. The stars outside seemed to stretch, becoming distant pinpricks as the unknown unfolded before them. The path Leo had chosen was one of pure defiance, and he could feel it now, the pulse of the ship beneath his fingertips, the rhythm of a ship awakening to something greater than itself. "Drone, give me a status report. Everything holding?" Leo's voice was a low hum, more to himself than to the machine. "Power reserve stable. All systems operating within tolerable parameters," the drone replied. "We are approaching the final stage of the journey." Leo nodded. His mind was sharper now, the years of experience and the weight of countless repairs flowing into him with each calculated move. He knew the stakes. There was no room for error. The coordinates they were heading toward were not just a location. They were the crux of everything they had uncovered, the secret of the universe, the key to something more profound than they had imagined. The stars beyond the viewport began to pulse. It was subtle at first, but as they neared the final stretch of the path, the energy intensified, almost as if the universe itself was watching. Leo couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was not just an accident, not just a chance for exploration, but a reckoning. Something had been waiting for humanity to find it, something that would forever alter the course of their existence. The ship's sensors flared as the final leg of the journey approached, a sudden drop in temperature as the Vanguard entered the core of the destination's energy field. The metal under Leo's hands was frigid, yet he could feel a warmth within himself, a surge of understanding and power that had come from nothing more than sheer will. No alien race, no forgotten civilization, just a human mechanic and his broken ship. And yet here they were, on the verge of uncovering the most dangerous and coveted secrets of the cosmos. "We've reached the core," the drone announced quietly, its voice carrying the weight of inevitability. "Shall we proceed?" Leo didn't hesitate. His voice rang out, filled with a steady confidence that only those who truly understood their purpose could summon. "Proceed. Open the gateway." The words were a declaration not just for the ship, but for humanity itself. The cosmic gate before them flickered, its borders dissolving into threads of light that stretched and expanded like the universe was unveiling itself. Leo felt a rush of power flood through the cockpit, not from the ship or its systems, but from the very idea that humanity was the one who had unlocked this potential. Not aliens, not forgotten gods, but humans. "We did it," Leo whispered, staring at the opening before them. A sharp realization hit him like a wave. The greatest weapon of all wasn't the ship or the advanced tech. It was humanity's ability to adapt, to rise when others faltered, to look into the unknown and say, "We belong here." As the gateway opened fully, Leo's lips curled into a satisfied smile. "The universe should have known," he said quietly, the weight of the truth settling over him. "Humanity doesn't need saving. We are the ones who do the saving now." The Vanguard sailed forward through the dissolving gateway, the cosmos unfolding before Leo like an endless ocean, its depths darker and more profound than any human had ever dared to imagine. The ship glided effortlessly, guided not by the whims of alien technology, but by the sheer will of its human pilot. The path ahead was uncharted, but it was theirs to walk. Leo's eyes remained fixed on the glowing expanse, but his thoughts echoed in the silence of the cockpit. They had done it, not with superhuman powers or technologies beyond their comprehension, but through the ingenuity, resilience, and sheer determination that had always been humanity's strongest trait. The universe had underestimated them, and now it would know better. "Coordinates locked," the drone said, breaking the stillness. Its voice was matter-of-fact, but Leo could sense the significance of the moment in the way the machine spoke, its usually cold tone now imbued with a sense of awe. "The destination is ahead, Leo. Humanity has reached its place in the stars." Leo didn't respond right away. He didn't need to. He was already moving, his hands steady on the controls as he prepared for whatever lay ahead. The ship was no longer just a tool. It was an extension of him, a symbol of everything humanity had achieved, of every moment where doubt was cast aside for the impossible. As the Vanguard crossed the threshold into the heart of the unknown, a soft tremor ran through the ship, a hum of finality in the air. The space beyond the gateway shimmered with endless possibilities, swirling in every direction like a storm of stars, nebulae, and worlds that had never been seen. "We were always meant for this," Leo whispered, almost to himself, as he leaned back in his seat, the weight of his words settling around him like a cloak. The drone's soft beeping sounded again, but there was a quiet pride in its response. "Humanity has always been the one to take the next step. We just needed the courage to walk it." Leo smiled, the words resonating deep within him. There had never been a more perfect answer. It wasn't the technology or the mystery of the universe that made humanity unique. It was the ability to adapt, to take what they were given and carve their own path. It wasn't the ship or the gateway that had brought them here. It was their relentless pursuit of answers, their unyielding drive to make the impossible a reality. The vast expanse stretched before them, the stars swirling like the promises of 1,000 futures. The Vanguard was just the beginning. The path forward was open, not to some distant alien empire, but to humanity. Leo's fingers hovered over the controls, his heart steady, as he set the ship into its next course. "Let's show them," he muttered, his voice full of conviction. "Let's show them who we are." The stars sparkled around them, the journey ahead a testament to the human spirit, the spirit that had always been unstoppable. The Vanguard was more than just a ship. It was a symbol, and the universe would soon know that humanity was the force that would shape the future. And as Leo steered them deeper into the unknown, he knew one thing for certain. Earth would never again be just a speck in the vastness of the universe. It was the beginning of something far greater, the beginning of humanity's reign among the stars. Here are the prompts for each part of the story.